Ladies and gentlemen, we are starting our last session. I hope that you have been enjoying these days. I think that this has been a wonderful conference. I would like to congratulate the IFAMA and also the organizers, so a big clap for everyone. Well, to start, I would like to ask each of us, which is your main motivation to be here in this scenario and to be part of this session? So please,
ladies first.
Montse, could you start, please?
Well, my main motivation is to really bring my seat as an outsider to the sector, but I just got to know it through ISAM, where I'm a teacher, and to be able to be part of this because it's such an important industry, the most important. Without it, we will not live. So that's my motivation.
Mm-hmm. So please, Ken, can you follow with this question?
Yeah, very happy to, and it's really good to be here. From my perspective, I would say that I've learned very quickly that I can get into a position of authority, but I certainly don't have all the answers. And I also come from a country, I'm both dual national of British and Irish, and maybe the United Kingdom has given a bit of an impression of late that we do think we know all the answers. I just want to be clear that we don't, and so I'm in very big active listening mode, and it's been great to meet so many different people. So delighted to be here.
Thank you, Ken. So for me, it's trying to bridge the gap between the industry and education. And I think there's also the key issue of IFAMA bringing us together, but I also see it in practice. I do a lot of work with the industry, especially in the high-tech horticulture, and it's really an issue also to create a good learning culture within the industry, but as educational institutes, we really need to be much agile to deal with all the questions.
Thank you very much.
Okay, for me, thank you all. I'm very happy that we won the Mediterranean Sea, so thanks for being here. It's nice to have you instead of going to walk in this beautiful city. And my motivation as an educator is that when I first came to IFAMA, we did not have phones yet. So can you imagine our lives at that time? We were using those projectors and small pieces of plastic to project our papers and research. And now we have artificial intelligence, we have changing roles of educators in the most important topic of society, that's how to educate people. This is what I expect to learn and to improve during this 1 hour discussion here.
Amazing. So, Monse, the first question. What do you think about the innovative techniques in human capital management, and what do you feel that companies could do to improve the well-being among this industry?
Well, that's a very difficult question, especially to answer, but I've given some thought. And the first thing will be to stop doing what we are doing, because it doesn't work. Mm-hmm. I mean, your sector, which is amazing and so necessary, is the one with a higher rate of suicide, where mental health is more of a problem, and that is due to the lack of control that professionals in this field have. And of course, what from HR we are doing, because I'm an HR practitioner, is not working, because we do more than ever for our people, but people, and this is a fact, is worse than ever. We have an epidemic of an inner pandemic of bad being, if such a word exists, of depression, anxiety, and stress. And the first thing, if we want to innovate as an organization, and if we really want to grow, there is no wealth without health, and there is no health without mental health. So if we are trying to pretend that we're going to bring any technology, and by magic it's going to bring results, we are very wrong, and better throw the money in the toilet, because it's not going to work. Innovation is not technology, it's people, your talent, and it's nothing if they are not healthy. The same if we have earth and terrain that is rotten, nothing comes, if it's toxic. And now we have workplaces that they are toxic. I mean, 75% of people are languishing at work. Guys, if you have 10 people, 7 are not flourishing. And could you afford to have lands with that? With just 3 peppers instead of 10? That will be a ruin. And maybe you're doing well, but you could do much better. So innovation is to create a culture that nurtures mental health of their people, because without well-being, there is no being.
Totally agree. So, Woody, how educational programs are being adapted to the needs of this sector in terms of the educational programs
Yes,
in
thank you
Holland
for
University?
yes, thank you for this question. Well, we are trying this for decades to find the answer, and we are still struggling with this issue. But I think that we are making a great progress now. In our cluster, we sat together. So since 2018, we started to develop a kind of collaboration, a triple helix collaboration between the industry, governments, and educational institutes and research. We developed an agreement, a pact, innovation pact, and a human capital agreement, because we said we really need to work together on this human chapter. It took quite a while, but now we have very big programs. We just got a big fund for 21 million euros to work together in a project to find and create together new ways of collaboration. And it has to come, it's more a system innovation. You know, institutes cannot do this alone. We have to do this together. And in many cases, we still see that, let's say, the more traditional companies say, okay, that's your task. You educate. And we will use them, and then they come to us. But we talk about lifelong learning. People need to be educated. The developments in technology and society go very fast. So the knowledge we deliver will be, let's say, 5 or maybe 10 years, it's out of date. So we have to collaborate also during this whole professional career with the industry, setting up new, let's say, approaches there. But we, as institute, should also take responsibility. So our board said, okay, we really want to be a partner for the region on education, on training, but also related to innovation. So we set up now strategic partnerships, and from there we develop all kinds of new programs together, and this will also lead then to, let's say, very operational projects where students work with in real cases, real projects, from the first year up to the 4th year. So companies bring in the latest knowledge, and it has also an impact on the teachers. So they shift from content delivery to learning coach. Together with the industry, hybrid lectures we have, people from the industry teaching, and all kinds of new forms are now in place. The curricula are changed, and I'm very positive because I see that also on the board of directors at our institute and also at the industry, they really want to make steps now. So
thank you very much. So Ken, what do you feel about the role of universities in a global aspect in this transforming human capital around agri-food industry?
Really good, but quite a difficult question, actually, because so I think in the end, we know that the agri-food system that we're all part of is a global system. And, but that isn't necessarily where people have started in terms of the designs of the system and how that's actually worked. So I think we've got a number of things. Number one, we've got to equip any student that goes through a university or through a college or any type of institution to think like a global citizen. They need to know that how they see something in their own country is not necessarily relevant to another country. So how you make assumptions about soil in one country is not the same. So it's really important as universities that we take that seriously and we create the opportunity for people to develop global understanding, global competency as well. The other thing is we've got to challenge ourselves as to what our future students and what our future graduates are going to look like. And that is changing, and it's changing quickly. So my institution was a college in 1901 with 6 students. It's now a university since 2012. It's the largest producer of graduates in the UK into the agri-food sector. But the courses that we would develop now bear very little relation to anything we would have taught 5 years ago. So we have just, the university has been in one location for 120 years. We've just opened a second location. And the second location is focused on robotics, automation, AI, ethics, digital business, and a range of other things. So I think the real challenge that we've got is the next generation of workers in the food and farming industry have already been born, but other industries are already fighting to get them. And most of those students who end up in our sector won't even know that this is a sector that they can access, let alone have a good job and a sensible job. So I convened a panel of food companies in the UK last year, and we came to the collective conclusion, we are really bad at storytelling. We're really bad at inspiring people, and schools are really bad at teaching these disciplines. They don't inspire. So when a child goes to school and they have a meal in front of them, nobody explains where it came from. Nobody explains anything about it. What we do is we feed them, push it on them, push them out the door. So the nature of the talent is going to change. The nature of what they study is going to change. The nature of how they think is going to change, and it's going to keep changing. So having had a period where, yes, there's been innovation for right throughout agriculture and right throughout food, the rate of innovation is going to be faster. The expectations of industry for not just practical scientific knowledge, but we want good employees as well. We're trying to create employees which go on and are actually good citizens in their organization. So big challenge, but a massive opportunity. And one of, in the UK, the biggest industry sector of the lot.
Wonderful. So Marcos, how can agribusiness schools can foster knowledge in technical and practical knowledge to this rapidly changing agri-food sector, and how can you measure these qualitative aspects and transform them into quantitative numbers that can be measured, controlled, and fostered?
Jorge, can I ask you if I can stand up a little bit and project a slide for the audience, because I prepared the one table resume for you to take home. So just a second, I'll be back here. And you don't have to worry, because it's just one slide. So probably you're not going to see me doing that movement that we saw. Remember, trying to find the place to change the slide. Let's see if the slide can come up here. So I have to share a dream with you. Last year, when we were here at IFAMA, not here, in Christchurch, New Zealand, we were creating a school, because we were tired of the behavior of our schools. And we wanted to create something new for our students, something that could help them to improve and to build up real talent for food and agribusiness. So the idea was to create Harvin. That's a joint venture from Brazilian's largest educational group with our consultancy group, so it's possible. And we entered in the business of education in order to improve talents in our industry. So I'm very happy to see 10 of Harvard students here, so it's real. We brought 10 of them to the conference here. And the idea was to make them different and dedicated to food and agribusiness, what I couldn't do in the schools that I was teaching. So the idea here is to work within 10 words, 10 characteristics that I consider extremely important for people to be well employed, for people to create value, for people to be involved and really making the difference in the company. So first of all, they must be result driven. They must deliver margins for the industry that they are working as a person. The second one, they should have a broad view. We don't want students in this polarized world just having one view. He has to understand the ones that think differently, and why does he think differently, in which points can we agree. Because society nowadays, it's either I'm this side or at that side, and we don't see bridges being built. So we need bridges, and we need to understand both. They should be simple. I think after COVID, we learned that there are other things in life, and we don't want complex things. We want things to be simple, to deliver the value in a simple way that people can adopt it immediately. That's the idea. Always investing, like the students that we had here in IFAMA, they are investing. So we're always paying in order to get better. we're doing a course, we're participating in meetings. So it's not that you're going to finish and that's done. We never finish. We should always be investing in order to create our improvements. They should be very relational also, to know how to work in teams, to know how to share the results with others, and not having an individual approach only. So that's the idea, working together. And we see some difficulties nowadays when we talk to this younger generation in some of these topics that I told you. I'm almost finishing here. They have to be innovative and to adapt, because companies are changing, the environment is changing, and the technology is changing. That's what we need to do, although it's difficult to adapt. We know that, but we should, in order to stay creating margins and be a valuable resource for the ones that are using us. We should be globally synchronized. We should know what's going on in Vietnam. We should know what's going on in Europe, the elections, the democracy, the hunger, and not only stay in our life, in our circle, in our things that we are in our day-to-day activities. So let's try to be smart. Let's try to travel more, to understand people, to build up the networks, to talk to other religions and to understand what's going on. They should have the capacity to communicate, not too much, but to do a good communication when they need to tell about innovation or when they need to deliver a certain result. They should be social also. We will be remembered in this life by the opportunities that we created for other people. Everyone here will remember a person that gave you an opportunity. So this should be in their mindset. I should do something to include people, to create opportunities for the ones that are surrounding my activities, or the ones that I even don't know where they are. And the last but not least, they should be a dreamer, because they can make things happen. The group that created this school in Brazil, we were dreaming about this school, and it became a reality. It's working now. It's born within the IFAMA context, and it's partner of all the universities that are here. So that was the idea when we created it. It's to make our young people, our new resources different, and just for you to use them. These were the 10 topics that inspired us and are inspiring in our classes in order to make them different. And then we use the methodologies, but these are the 10 words that I would like to share with you in the first answer. Thank you, Jorge, and sorry for standing up here.
Thank you very much. Thank you for so much inspiration. I think that we need to keep this inspiration to maintain the motivation to work in this industry where we need a lot of love for the planet and also for the agri-food industry. So now we are going to start some dynamic questions where Marco is going to ask Montse. The first question, please. Could you start?
So my question is, I want to share what I see in Brazil, being teacher, professor at the university for 30 years. And something funny happens, because every year I am 1 year older and the students are the same age. It's incredible. So do you see a difference in the generations? And which difference do you see? Like 15, 20 years ago, a little bit pre-phones, pre-smartphones, and now is it more difficult in terms of the way they behave, the wish to work? Do you see differences from 2020 to 2000, for instance?
That's a very good question, thank you. I have to say yes, there is a big difference, but I'm not going to go for the typical theme now we say that this new generation is like a crystal glass generation, and some criticism like they work less, they are less committed. And what I want to say is the main difference is that now there is so much uncertainty and so much change, and that combination is lethal because there are less values. Everybody talks in the internet about anything. In the social network, you have followers, and it's like your God, and you're just somebody which maybe buy it. So young people, feel very lost because they don't have references, they've fallen, there is confusion, and now there is also, as you were mentioning, and you mentioned, the uncertainty. So we don't know where we're going, and also we don't know who to follow. So that is a combination that may explain why mental health is especially dangerous and critical for young people. We have a crisis because less people are being born than ever. So we have an older workforce, and they are getting mentally ill. Second cause of, I'm bringing the bad note here, but the second cause of death among 16 to 29 is suicide too. So we have a situation where young people feel lost than ever and confused. And it's our responsibility, it's my responsibility and all of us, because we created this. So it's in our hands to provide them with the scaffolding to really shift, to happy shift. That's what we do. So
Thank you very much.
there is hope.
There is hope. So please,
ask. Oh,
yes.
yeah.
So please,
Oh,
can you
wow.
ask again now?
Well, I will ask what do you see is the thing that worries you most in your job? I know how passionate you are about education and how you really care, which is something very important for you. It's more than a job, it's your life and your purpose. What is what keeps you up at night to really teach your students? We saw all those skills, but what is what for you is like, oh, I can't shake it?
Really difficult question again. Thank you, Monty. There are a couple of things, really. One of them is what Woody was talking about before, which was this triple helix approach of government, universities and education, and research and innovation with industry. And I think that there is a devaluing of education, and particularly higher education, that's happening all over the world in certain parts. It's not happening everywhere, so it's not being devalued in China, but it is being devalued and it is being questioned in a number of different places. So when I see the gap between the way we produce food at the moment and who gets access to those food sources and how that's being done, and the rate of continued either skill development or innovation to narrow the gap to the 9 billion in all areas of the world to get access to it, and then I see the means through which some of that thinking is being undermined, I worry about those generations. I worry about the compounding effect of climate change being something that overwhelms people as opposed to being a call to arms and for that particular generation. One of the things that I think is the hardest thing for a young person to develop, and it's something they cannot teach, they can't be taught. What they have to do is experience things, and you use the word scaffolding, almost feel like a blanket of safety that they can fall on if they try something. But I think young people, and I talk to my nephew about this a lot, I think they're going through a real stage of grief at the moment. And I think they're going through the anger stage of grief because they still think the generation that's going ahead of them is going to solve this for them. And we're not. We've partly caused the situation that we're in, and they are in. And what we've got to get them through is to a point of acceptance, and then instead of fighting the system, they need to change the system. Instead of fighting authority, they need to actually solve some of the issues that are there. But if I was thinking about myself 30 years ago when I was thinking about going to university, and I'll just look in the UK context where we now charge them, the government puts very little money into their education. They pay, the student has to pay for all of it. The likelihood is they're more likely to have to live with their parents until they're in their 30s because they can't afford a house. Childcare costs are ridiculously high, and the older generation took them out of the market that would have given them access to continuous growth over a period of time. But you can get angry about that, you can get annoyed about it, you can do what, but the reality is that isn't going to solve it. What's going to solve it is them developing the strength and capability and inner confidence to say, actually, this can be better. And final thing is just to compare two things. I bore people with this story about this charity I've helped a community in Uganda to create for themselves, but they reached out for some help some years ago. And it's fascinating seeing an orphan generation in Uganda who don't have access to education in this community. They don't have access to parents for a lot of them. They have very little access to food, and they've got very few job prospects. And they are significantly less concerned about the future. They are more motivated about making it a better future. And I think we've just got to be honest with the next generation coming through and say, the world is pretty messy. It's like full of difficult stuff and bad stuff, and you can either be sunk by it, or you can see the gap in it, and you can develop some inner resilience, and you can go for it. And that is what the job of all of us is going to have to be. We have got to give the next generation hope, and I think what we're doing is instilling them with fear. And all of us, the only way out of this is hope. And do not rely on the politicians, they're not going to give it to us. Do not rely on people who have all the resources, they're not going to give it to us. What we need to do is instill hope in that generation, and then hope they come through these solutions with a very different position to the people who went before them.
Thank you.
Thank you. And
Could you please, thank you.
I think that will be the next question for you, how to give them hope, or not?
I'm too busy thinking about myself.
Okay. You go very deep now.
Yeah, I know, I've gone very philosophical, I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, it's fine.
Yeah. So we've got the 10 attributes that you talked about on your slide. And I suppose my question is, out of all of them, and it could be those 10 or it could be any other thing, what is the key critical attribute that you think we need to instill in an emerging generation so that they can actually deliver the change they're yearning to get to? So what I've said is, I think they are the solution to part of the problem that they're seeing. I don't think society is going to pass them a solution. So what is it that that we really do need to ensure that these younger people coming through are able to do, are able to access or whatever, to make the most significant difference to the issues and challenges we're talking about?
Thank you. I think if you look at the slide from Marcus, the 21st century skills and this approach, I see also a lot of young people with some ideals. And I think if we change our educational system in such a way that from day one, they enter our university, we grab this idea of them, help them to make it come into reality. So if they have some ideas of changing our food system or improving it via projects, guidance and support, that they are able to grasp it, study it, and also see via the project that things can really change. So give them hope, but also give them some tools to make things happen, to change. A lot of the issues we have at this moment are very big, the very large problems. So last I was with my daughter in the car and she said, I don't want to hear all this news anymore. I cannot deal with this. I don't know what to do. I really feel this, I'm really engaged with all these issues, but how can I do something? She works now for a municipality, and so she is able to do some policy making, but then she said, but how to execute this? So I think that supporting via all kinds of projects and interactions together as students, coming back to your issue, I think only online learning won't work. We did that at COVID and we saw the disasters. The students, they have to interact, connect, also what we're doing here, together and discuss and then find their way. We also have in what we call in German, Bildung. Building is more for, how to create a resilient person, an individual who can stand up in the society. So it's not only about gaining knowledge and do the math and statistics, but also what is my position in society? How can I deal with that and make it smaller so I can operate in this? So I think we have a kind of task to make all these different you need all those 10 points. So you cannot pick out one. So you need them all in a more holistic approach, but you need to give them tools and understand and do the right analysis and organize your own network and partners and then work on solutions. Is that a bit answer? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. So I'm feeling, yes, one question is missing, sorry.
Sorry, yeah. So Marcos, I also have a question for related to your slide. And if you want to make this work, you cannot do that in the class, I believe. You need, let's say, I talk most of the times about a school without walls. You need to open up your classroom, interact from that perspective. So what is your opinion on the role and the let's say, of partners to make this happen?
Thank you, Woody, for a very nice question. And we are trying to make a difference in order to make the students or the ones that you're trying to teach as soon as possible to integrate teams that are doing projects, that are working within companies, so they can, with the horizontal, let's say, education, gain a lot of experience better than we as professors give to them. It's incredible when you pick up a student and put in a project that's going on. It's much easier for the master students, the PhD or the consultants to teach them, and because they have to do it. And then someone comes, no, this way, that way, it makes it much easier. So I think it's that there's nonsense today, at least in our area, in business, not to have the companies and the projects inside the classrooms and the students inside the companies in order to make this integration happen.
Thank you very much. I hope that everyone is enjoying this. Now we would like your participation, your questions. So maybe anyone in the audience has any question, please? There in the middle.
Thank you so much for the insights and the conversation. I love the topic of the conversation, which is Agriculture's Got Talent. And my question was around, we hear a lot of the institutions mentioning students, 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 and half of the time there is a transition where in the life of the youth, they're not in education. So how do you interact with them to tell them more about agriculture and engage them to join the sector? What else can be done except maybe having conferences? Because, for example, IFAMA, it's not a lie that there is a cost to come. So how do we reach even those younger generations and communities that still need to be a part of the workforce and understand the value that it has and what they could do? Because oftentimes, for example, I hear a lot of companies saying, oh, young people do not want to join agriculture because it's not sexy, it doesn't ABCD. But what are we telling them, or what could they be told from a position of power, from a position of experience that you have? What is the influence, or what can be done, basically? Thank you.
So I first go with that, and I'll just give you a practical example really briefly. So I mentioned this Uganda charity previously. So the community they're talking about, very few of the young people go into education, so they don't get access to a science education. And I think we as organizations, whether we're universities or industry or not-for-profits or government, we've got an amazing convening authority. What we're able to do is break the silos of different areas and accelerate the benefit that people get. So very short story. Young chap called David wrote to me when I lived in Australia, which I did until 2021. He told me about his project where 4 community leaders, all in their 20s, wanted to create a pathway to education for orphan and vulnerable children. Asked me whether or not I could help him. We worked together on getting them registered as an NGO, on also getting a website up and running. But actually, we created a co-developed fundraising plan so that we could set a target just for 25 girls to go into school within 12 months. And I would use my contacts on that, and he would use his contacts on that. So we do have those 25 girls in school in Uganda. Fast forward to me moving to the UK into this university. This university has a collaboration with a charity in England which operates an online course right across Africa. And once people have done that course, it's targeted at farmers and landowners and others. Once they've done that, then 15 of them are given a scholarship to come and have an intensive program in the UK to then be able to do a train-the-trainer model and to be able to do that. And then a subset of those are given a fully funded scholarship to do either an undergraduate degree or a master's degree in any university that they want to do. And just by way of that, David, who reached out to me 4 years ago, I met him for the first time 4 weeks ago when he got one of those scholarships to come to my university. So 4 years ago, he had no network, and 4 years later, he's got my network. So if we want to do it, we've got to not just rely on formal education, because if they're not in education at the beginning, we're effectively saying you're out of the system for potentially 12, 15, 18 years. We've just got to break the silos down. We've got to find ways of finding talent, finding potential communities, and connect them to people who can accelerate them through the progress chain. So I think universities do have a role to play because we have a lot of alumni that are in industry. We can use those networks. But you're absolutely right. If we just simply rely on formal education, we will miss the vast majority of talent that we're going to need in the next generation.
So please, Montse.
I would like to say something, and I think this is such a complex and such a good question that we cannot do it on our own. And what I mean, this is a private public sector collaboration, as it happens somewhere else, and it has to be education, organizations, and institutions, because first, there is not going to be no talent, trained or not trained. There's a shortage of talent, and hence, we really start looking at pools of talent, countries where we have more talent, and we can bring them, as it has happened with the nurses in some places. So we need to look for them, create shorter accreditation, Lego-like education, where we collaborate. Also, we avoid the Coursera's doing terrible work in training people, and we do it as universities in a much more simple, palatable, digestible, easy to access, and people can start coming into our sector, which will always have jobs, where we can offer apprenticeships, we can offer careers. You know, careers don't have to be vertical, they are horizontal. How can I get somebody that is sitting the plant at the beginning and then it can study part-time or a third of the time and then learn skills? And that person, that talent, we will nurture it and we'll be always grateful and we will have a different source of talent. But that's such a huge effort that needs to be the three entities plus the storytelling and the employer branding. I'm from Spain and I didn't know this amazing place Almeria had this richness, this innovation. Many people don't know. So we have to start telling our story outside the world so everybody knows we are here to really fight for talent and we have something to offer. Have I answered?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Marcos, please.
Just a quick comment, because I think you raised one of the most important questions in this conference. What I see is that the gaps are increasing. You know, the people that have a chance to be here, have a chance to be in our school, they are getting better and better, and the average is going down. So the gaps are increasing. How can we work in order to reduce the gaps? So you had two ideas here. I would point out that we should take advantage of social media and have local multipliers of knowledge that can speak the language and be in the region where we need to create opportunities. Remember that one of the 10 topics that I raised here is that they should have a mindset of creating opportunities for people. And sharing our experience, we created a platform, a knowledge platform that's all for free. And we have 150,000 followers that receive exactly what I see. So we will produce in the coming days a video about what was discussed in IFAMA, and this will be released over there all for free. So the idea is that we should help to generate content for free and have channels to make this content reach people in order for the gaps to be reduced. So people can see what was discussed here, they can see some slides, they can see the pictures. So I think all of us here as professors should put more efforts towards social media to make what we learn available for more people.
Thank you.
Yeah. Maybe
Really
a
also-
little bit different angle, because I fully agree with said already. And I think there's also a responsibility in the whole food chain, starting with the consumers, the retailers, and the suppliers there. So there are some nice examples. For example, Nature and More, Josta in the Netherlands, they deliver to all kinds of retailers. And they have this approach of transparency. So you can really meet, when you buy a product, the community and what's going on in the community. So this also gives a kind of pressure on this whole value chain to take action on that level, because it gets more transparent. There are, at this moment, retailers who refuse to join in this program because they don't want this transparency, and they can buy all places in the world. So I think there's also a responsibility in this whole value chain for all these different actors to take action. And then there are all kinds of potential systems, structures like free systems. I'm also involved in a free mini MBA for agribusiness, microcredits, all kinds of concepts are there. But it starts with the industry and the retailers that are really willing to be supportive. And that's what I mentioned, the learning, investing in learning culture also in their own companies is very important, especially in our business, because if you compare that with other sectors, we are really lagging behind. And we were only focusing on production, and pushing all the products in the chain. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else has a question, please? Two more? Well, there and there. Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I would like to know about your opinion about the role of AI in education. Is it a friend or foe?
Okay, only one answer, please. Who would like to answer this topic? You can choose.
Thank you. Well, as I mentioned, part of the learning is also the social part. So AI can be used as a tool. It can be open up a lot of knowledge for the students. So we are also working on, let's say, all kinds of new AI concepts, avatars, supporting students. But it could never, in my opinion, replace the social context. We need to contact. We are human beings. We need a social context. And but we did also a project where also for the educational part, we can use AI to speed up and make life much easier to develop content, for example, for classes. Yeah. So you can use it. Yeah.
Thank you. One more answer, and then we follow with the second question.
Yeah, just one quick response. If we fear it, we will make current models of education irrelevant. And what we need to do, so I think the key thing we need to teach our students and emerging students is, as well as not to spill water all over the sofa, is ethics and responsibility, because they're going to be exposed to choices they can make throughout their learning over what they do and what they don't do, how they do it and how they don't do it. And they also need to know how to explain how they used it. So if we think AI is a route to automation of education on the part of the learner, then that is not going to be the case, because there is always going to have to be a way of assessing how they used it. But if we don't embrace it, if we just try and shut it down and do it, a lot of institutions will not be here in 10 years' time, in my view.
Thank you. Can we continue with the second question, please? Yes. We're going to have time for both, so don't worry. Okay.
Hello. So I've heard quite a bit about motivating future generations. I consider myself part of that future generation. I went to Purdue, and I'm not finished with my career in academia, but I definitely plan on going back to Peru. I would say that I grew up working more or less close to my parents around a lot of smallholder producers, and I often wonder, what do I want to bring back? Like, how do I contribute to this community. So I'd like to hear your perspective on the following kind of issue I've been asking myself. Is it productive, or should I kind of feed and push this global market perspective on smallholder producers? Should everyone strive to be like a high value exporter, or should we instead encourage them to embrace the reality and instead seek to optimize their use of resources with what's available? I'm not trying to put anyone on the spot, but I'd like an honest answer on this. So whoever wants to take it, please.
Well, I can start. Well, it's wonderful that you have a dream to go back and to take part of the knowledge that you were able to capture and to help people. And I would say that maybe the first thing that you could do is to create value, create margins for the ones that you are providing the service. So step number one is do their journey, understand where the pains are, and how can you help to solve those pains. Don't lose time with things that are not surrounding the most important thing, that's to make better his activity. And then a second stage, you're gonna try to build up collective actions with them and other things. But first of all, understand the journey they face in their work, in what they plant or in what they sell. See where the pains are, and then you'll go directly trying to solve the pains, because you're gonna bring results immediately for them. And then you're gonna increase your value and your acceptance in what you're doing.
Well, I'm not an expert in the technical side, but from a talent point of view, I will tell you that the best thing is they embrace themselves. They learn to develop the ability to change before proposing any change. So rather than trying to make them become a #1 exporter from when they are, which is a very big gap, and it might create lots of anxiety and it will fail, that they learn about themselves, who they are, and the same you have your dream, enable them to have theirs. Because it's not everything about size and exporting, and we don't know where the world is going, so maybe the first exercise is to really embrace their authenticity and embrace their dreams and their hope to be where they want to be, I think.
Thank you for these two amazing questions and also answers. We have time for one more, so please, who would like to continue? There, please.
I'm going to ask the panel to engage in a bit of magical thinking. And I'm going to ask, if you had a magic wand and you can change one thing in the agricultural skills ecosystem, what would you do?
Who wants to answer this one?
I started the other one.
Okay. So, Ken, Woody?
Okay, I'll have a go. Al works in my team, so he's now fired. So, no, joking. Joking. I wish we would value the development of the skills we need in proportion to our need for the skills we have. And I think that is the fundamental thing that we've got. We've got an imbalance of value of the skills compared to the global need for those skills. And if we embrace that, we would be putting less effort in recruiting the brightest students, graduates, or high school students into city-based careers and law and all these other things. And we would be really targeting our effort to get the best talent into the most wicked problem that the world has got, which is feeding this population and keeping the planet thriving. And if I had a second one, it would just simply be that I wish the developed world would stop just thinking through a generous lens. It just needs to be slightly less arrogant than it is, and realize that there's a hell of a lot of talent in places which have not been discovered. And if we really want to accelerate, we should prioritize going to those communities that are currently not part of the skills development chain and find their most talented people. If I could do both of those, I think we'd make a big difference.
Thank you.
So thank you for the question. It helps me to give my final message. So if we work on talent and we deliver them, for example, to the industry, I think it's very, well, we need to keep them in our sector. So development and trying to recruit them, the talent, and train them, but then after graduation they go to the industry, and how do we keep the talent? So that's coming back to my question. My issue is, how can we create a learning culture? We really need to work on that part to keep the talent and make it possible, lifelong learning concepts, but also within the companies. So the HR department is not only about contracts, it's also about identifying what are the capabilities of people, how can you give them a professional career in your organization and help them and support them as an organization. And of course we can be helpful there, but we cannot do it everything ourselves. So creating this learning culture is very important.
Yeah. Well, it's a great question, thank you. It got me thinking that if I will have this magic wand, I'm going to invent a new skill that conveys all of them and is the Almeria mindset. Now we talk about growth mindset, but we have to talk about the Almeria mindset, because you know here, I don't know if many of you know, but Clint Eastwood did his first movies, right? Because it's a desert. And from that to the main potence in the world, first producer, that is a miracle in a land that is not naturally for what it is. But they say, we are not going to be stuck. We are not going to be hopeless. We can do something. And they created what we have. So that mindset, that skill, I will instill in every human being, because that will save the world.
Thank you very much.
It's a tough answer, but I think if I have one point to fix now, I would say that probably if I could ask to all the ones that are teaching today to control ideology and to stay neutral. Because what I see dealing in my country with education for the middle schools is that I normally say that we have three major topics or activities. First, we should innovate, we should produce and sell. With that, we have income creation, income generation, and then we have income distribution. What I see nowadays is a focus. The focus is too heavy on income distribution, and we are making it difficult because there's less effort in income generation. And if you stay the whole time in income distribution, you end up creating a group that I see a little bit in our youth that is, I don't need to do any effort because it's going to be given to me. So I don't need to plant because it's going to be there, and someone will harvest and deliver it to me. So I think in terms of the wealth of society, we are a little bit contaminated with ideology. We are too much on that side, mostly in the middle schools, and we should build up more entrepreneurship, and you're going to get something if you work. It's not going to be given to you.
Thank you very much. So we are almost at the end. Only 5 minutes remaining, so I would like to ask one last question, no more than 1 minute per panelist. How would you tackle the farm-to-city migration and the relation between technology, human capital, and also the role of IFAMA, and plan some strategies for the future, for the next decade in human capital in the agribusiness sector? So, Woody, would you like to start, please?
Yes, thank you. Well, I can give you some examples. I did quite some work with investors all over the world related to horticulture, the greenhouse, the glasshouse investments. And what we see there is that most of those investors are really fond of the technology, okay? So, and they see this is a money maker. So they buy. And then they see, let's say, the offer of the people who will be construct this whole technology. And then there is somewhere, bottom line, something about education and training people, you know? Mm-hmm. So they say, well, okay, that can be put aside, so it's a kind of discount. And then they start building. And then afterwards they complain that the expectations of the production don't meet the reality. And I did some work on that, and I see that in most cases, in the flowers, but also in vegetables, only 60% of the promised production will be achieved. And the 40% is related to the human factor, but that was cut out. So training and human capital development and technology are really interconnected, and I really believe that the human factor will be the success.
Thank you. Please, Ken, can you follow up?
Yeah, that's fine. So when I was at Monash University in 2020, we did an independent commission with a panel of experts looking at what we mean by livability. And because there are loads of definitions of livable cities. And actually what we found was that when it came to COVID, the cities didn't really do their job. So this centralization of urban connection didn't translate into a positive living experience for a lot of people. I think the single biggest barrier is connectivity. So people want to be connected to each other, and they want to be connected through the channels they use. So that means digital connectivity, but also transport connectivity and environmentally helpful transport connectivity. And if you have a look at what's happened in China with the investment in high-speed rail and various other things, they have taken prosperity from the cities right back into what would have been the traditional rural places. So I would say we need to prioritize transportation, we need to try to prioritize digital connectivity, and we just have to remember that the concentration of scale brings its own problems with it, and simply condensing everything into an urban setting is not solving half the problems that we need. So that's what I would do.
Thank you.
Yeah, building on what you're saying, Ken, I will add that we have an opportunity to attract talent from cities to farms. Because there is this movement now where people is trying to look for well-being. And the prices in Spain, for instance, in places like Malaga, Barcelona, Palma, Madrid, London, or many cities, they are gentrified. So young people are hopeless because they cannot afford a place to live and live healthily and in well-being. So we have an opportunity to capture that talent, but we have to do it actively as an industry to create marketing, employer branding, but instead of employer, destination branding, when we position the farms and the country and the rural world as a place to have well-being. There are some cases of success already, so I think that is a great opportunity to get.
Thank you very much.
You.
Well,
and the last one?
Just summing up, in order for you to build up let's say, a frame of what was told here. If you remember, most of you studied a graph where the jobs are in the past. So remember the primary sector, which is agriculture, the number of jobs per time, it goes like this. Then the industry goes like this, and the service sector goes like this. So I think for all these people migrating from farms to cities, we should do all these types of solutions, but also improve their capacity to work in the service business. That's where we could see this in Brazil, for instance, when we, in 2006, stopped the manual harvesting of sugarcane, start with the machinery. We released almost 250,000 people. They were all employed by the construction business in the city. So that's the idea. I think, just summing up, the service business, how can we build up skills to make these people available to work in the service business that's going up in terms of number of jobs.
Thank you very much. So we are almost at the end. Now I will invite you to stand up so we can do the closing together. I would like to congratulate all the audience, also these phenomenal panelists, for being highly inspiring. So now we need to understand that we have a lot of challenge, that we need to keep working together for a prosperous future for agribusiness. And I would like to invite you to clap with all your forces. And thank you very much. Thank you very much.